Set. Places, everybody. And action.
It's time once again for the Hooked on Movies podcast. We are continuing with the original prequel to Star Wars, the 2016 Rogue One movie. How about that? With me are Ken.
Congratulations. You are being rescued. Please, do not resist.
And Ted.
Ken, I'll be there for you. Eric said I had to.
And, of course, I'm Eric. We have hope. Rebellions are built on hope. Podcasts are built on hope. All right. And we're talking Rogue One, prequel to the original Star Wars. And then, as we were talking earlier, Andor, prequel to this movie. So what's the prequel to Andor? Anything?
The first three movies.
Revenge of the Sith.
All right.
Episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Well, always, we want to thank everyone for listening. You can, of course, find us on many avenues out there. The Dorkening Network, Good Pods, Apple CarPlay, Google, everywhere, right?
Thank you to our friends in Switzerland.
Yes, our friends, the Swiss. Of course, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere.
Anybody who listens to us outside of America, we apologize.
People on the moon, yeah. Aliens. We have a lot of ghosts that listen to us.
We apologize if any aliens come to this country because they heard this podcast.
We are the resistance, though.
Yes, we are the resistance. Yes, well played.
And rebellions are built on hope.
They are, yeah.
That's what you told us.
And I mean it. I really mean it.
I thought they were built on AI.
No.
I thought they were built on rock and roll. So
yeah, we built the city on rock and roll.
We built this rebellion on rock and roll.
Let's hope not. Jefferson Starship.
That's not. I mean, that's just Starship.
There's a reference that nobody will ever get.
Jefferson Starship.
Yeah.
Jefferson Airplane Starship. Mickey Thomas. Yeah. All right.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Dumbest thing ever.
We could have a whole podcast dedicated to Starship, but
we definitely could.
We
About
could.
How they sucked so bad it was hurt.
I like Jefferson Starship. So
they ruined the reputation of Jefferson Airplane.
Starship did. Jefferson Starship didn't. Yeah. Gentlemen, first time saw the movie. Ted, theater, right?
Yep, theater, opening night.
Dressed like Chewbacca, of course.
Actually, I only saw it twice the next day. I had tickets for 3 times, but I was so depressed after the second time I watched it on the next day. I was like, yeah, no, I'm peacing out.
He's escorted off the premises.
Yeah.
Did you have your lifelong buddy Ken with you?
Actually, no. Ken didn't go to this movie with me.
Huh?
Or did you?
I thought I did.
Did you? We might have seen it together. Did we go opening night together?
Yes, we did.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. I remember.
All right. Yeah,
wow.
It was awesome. It just, you can only watch a movie that's depressing so many times in one day.
Yeah, I've only watched a movie once in one day. I've never sat down or gone to the theater and seen a movie twice.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Time is never on my side for that, but
it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one was a little too emotional.
So for me, this movie I saw on video. Shocking. Yes.
I would have never guessed.
Never have guessed.
Eric
Probably
he doesn't know how to get to a movie theater.
Dude,
Do you know where a movie theater is?
I can probably list the amount of movies I've seen on a theater in 2 hands.
Wow.
And maybe a few fingers left.
Wow.
Not a lot. Just not my thing.
In the past years or lifetime?
Lifetime.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love the movie theater.
I'm sure I've probably been to the theater. I know it's horrible now that I'm saying it out loud. Maybe 10 times in my life.
Wow.
I know, right?
I feel bad for you.
And I've seen some pretty shitty movies in the theater, too.
Yeah, I feel bad for you.
Well, okay, maybe 15, but not more than 15.
The movie theater is one of my happy places.
So, Ted, particulars. Yeah. You're not going to name like every person in this movie, are you?
It's a pretty interesting list.
All right, let's get comfy, kids.
Rogue One, a Star Wars story. It was directed by Gareth Edwards. A screenplay by Chris Weitz and Tony Gilroy. It was musically scored by Michael Giacchino. It has a running time of 134 minutes. It was released December 16th, 2016. It had a budget of $280.2 million. And it had a box office gross of $1.05 billion.
So it made a little money.
And this is also the first Star Wars movie to not be scored by the immortal John Williams.
And why is that?
He was busy doing another movie. On Rotten Tomatoes, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, has a critic score of a certified fresh 84% and an audience score of 87%, which doesn't surprise me, both being in line with each other. And the IMDb rating is a 7.8, so it's not too terribly far off from the Rotten Tomatoes score. I guess the Star Wars assholes didn't get in there and rain havoc on the IMDb score like they did with other movies. So, starring Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso, Bo Gadsden as the 8-year-old Jyn, and Dolly Gadsden as the 4-year-old Jyn. So sisters portrayed her as a little kid. Diego Luna stars as Cassian Andor. Ben Mendelsohn as Orson Krennic.
We don't get a 5-year-old version or a 2-year-old version of those characters?
No. The
Damn it.
4-year-old stars in the original part, the section of the movie, and then there's a flashback where the 8-year-old comes through. Did you watch the movie?
Yeah, I was with you.
Yeah, you were. Donnie Yen stars as Chirrut Imwe. Mads Mikkelsen as Galen Erso. A big boy actor. He's an amazing actor. The very funny Alan Tudyk as the voice and motion capture of K2SO. Riz Ahmed stars as Bodhi Rook. Zhang Wen stars as Baze Malbus. Forrest Whitaker stars as Saw Gerrera. Jimmy V stars as R2-D2, even though he's uncredited. Anthony Daniels stars as C-3PO. Genevieve O'Reilly stars as Mon Mothma. Jimmy Smits stars as Bail Organa. James Earl Jones stars as the voice of Darth Vader, and Spencer Wilding and Daniel Naparis star as the actual physical Darth Vader. Guy Henry stars as Grand Moff Tarkin, with the digital likeness of Peter Cushing superimposed over the top. Ingvild Dyla stars as Princess Leia Organa, but she also has the digital likeness of Carrie Fisher superimposed over her. Alistair Petrie stars as General Davitz Draven. Warwick Davis stars as Weeteef Siubi. Ben Daniels as General Antok Merrick. Helene Kane stars as Lyra Erso. Now, at the end of the movie, during the final battle scene with the Starship fighter pilots, most of that is unused footage from A New Hope, and the people who were still alive came back and re-recorded new vocals. The others who were not alive, they used unused audio from A New Hope. And as far as cameos, there was 2 cameos in this movie. Rian Johnson and Ram Bergman, who were the director and producer of Star Wars Last Jedi, respectively, have cameos as 2 Death Star technicians.
I would argue that the C-3PO and the R2-D2 are cameos. Those are not
they're
starring
cameos. Technically, I guess they are. It was a way to get C-3PO to be in every movie.
They got one line and it's 10 seconds long. That's a cameo.
He's still in the cast, so I figured I wouldn't include him because he is Sir Anthony Daniels.
He's knighted? He's Sir
Is he
Anthony?
Sir?
I don't
He
think
might
he's
be.
a Sir.
Oh, he should be.
Okay. Maybe not.
We're just
Eventually,
playing
maybe.
C-3PO?
He should have changed his name to C-3PO.
He won't allow anybody else to really do it. And whenever they need somebody to be an ambassador for Star Wars, he's the one that is right there saying that he'll do it. He's probably done more for Star Wars than just about anybody else. He should be knighted. It's fine. Some of the people that have been knighted don't deserve it, so. It's Ken's Tidbits.
Man, I hope you have some good tidbits today, Ken.
So after Disney purchased Lucasfilms, John Knoll heard about some of the early concepts for a new Star Wars movie and was not impressed with any of them. He began developing his own idea for this film and started talking it up with his fellow ILM employees because he was the main guy in the prequel movies.
He worked on the originals, though, too, right?
I don't remember him being in the originals, but I do know he did the prequels, and we know how good they look right now. Anyway,
No, he's
people
not.
at ILM, I don't like that. People at ILM like it so much that they encouraged him to bring it to Kathleen Kennedy, and she orgasmed, and she decided that the movie needed to go into production.
That's an interesting description.
Well, it says here that, she loved it.
She loved it.
She loved it.
She loved it a long time.
$5, long time. Gareth Edwards
Get you
and his crew team discovered some old film canisters while rummaging around Lucas's warehouse. I guess he didn't even know they were there. I guess.
What I would do to be able to rummage through Lucas's warehouse? Are you freaking kidding me?
Did Disney buy that too? They bought everything of Lucas?
Yeah,
No.
They can go in and out of his ranch whenever they want.
Of course.
No, I somehow doubt that very distinctly because they didn't buy ILM though. I don't think. I think ILM is its own separate entity.
Is it even still around?
ILM, yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
Industrial Light and Magic.
I don't know. I don't hear much about them anymore. They were asking about old stuff of Star Wars Episode 4, and they discovered these unused material, and they decided to throw it into this movie, featuring Red Leader and Gold Leader. The studio only had two choices to play Chirrut, Donnie Yen, and Jet Li. Yen was approached first because of his salary of $4 million against Li's $10 million.
I think they chose correctly.
I don't know. I would have liked to see Jet Li in this. I like Jet Li.
Jet Li's okay.
I mean, Jet Li had a bigger career at this particular time, at least on the American art markets, right? So
Definitely.
So Galen is modeled after Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb.
There's a few parallels in this movie to that.
They both had the same guilt factor of becoming an agent of death.
That's why Oppenheimer used the quote from the Bhagavad Gita, I am become death, after the first test of the atomic bomb.
Alan Tudyk initially turned down the role of K2SO because he was starting to film another movie, and it collided with this movie. But then they pushed. I guess that movie was Con Man from 2015. But then Gareth Edwards told him that the filming was moved back a month, and so he agreed to join the production. So that's good.
Yeah, good for him too, because that's a god awful movie.
The original score was done by Alexandre Desplat, but unfortunately, well, not maybe unfortunately, they needed to do a lot of extended work on this film, a lot of post-production. They basically refilmed, I believe, 40% of the movie.
Thank you, Kathleen Kennedy. Seems to be her MO.
Hey, I mean, in this particular case, it kind of, I guess,
did
worked
kind
out.
of work.
And Michael
Giacchino or something like that. Giacchino?
His replacement only had 1 month to write his musical score, which did a pretty good job from what I could tell.
He did a really good job.
So a lot of this stuff I'm going to mention happens to do with the original trailer, the first two original trailers of this movie. Because
none of it is in the
none of it is in this film. Watch the original trailer. Jen walks out onto a catwalk and sees a TIE fighter rise up in front of her.
Right.
That's the one everybody remembers.
And the thing is, the studio knew it wasn't going to be in the film, But because it was so good looking, the shot was so nice, they said, we need to keep it in there.
Assholes used it anyway, yeah. As a dick move. Because
I do remember that trailer. That was a very cool trailer.
Everybody was waiting for that moment, too.
Yeah, so nearly none of the footage and dialogue in Rogue One's original reveal trailer made it to the final theater cut. Tony Gilroy was paid $5 million for 12 weeks for work on the script, revising, and reshoots, especially on the third act.
It's a good gig if you can get it.
He also recommended the producers to hire his brother, editor John Gilroy, to edit the reshot footage. None of the first two trailers footage made it to the final film. They said the reason for not showing the opening crawl, which is, the verbiage at the beginning of the film, was because they knew they were going to use John Williams' score for the film, so they decided just to do without the actual scrawl in itself, or the crawl in itself.
Oops.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think that's a good reason why not to do it. I think that being a standalone movie like this, I think stands as a reason not to do it. You really can't.
I think it's a great move, though. I like the fact that
I agree with the move. I just don't agree with the reasoning that just because they weren't going to use the Star Wars theme, they weren't going to whatever.
Considering it is weird. Like a in-between movie from Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, I think they just do a great job of bridging that gap without having the verbiage in between.
It's freaking great because, we'll discuss this, but essentially what it does is it brings to life the opening scrawl from A New Hope.
We'll talk a little bit more about how this movie links to the other movie. Tatiana Maslany, Rooney Mara, and Kate Mara all auditioned for the female lead of Jen Erso, which went to Felicity Jones.
Interesting choices. I would have liked to have seen if anybody else was on that list. I
was actually surprised nobody of more popular stature, but I think they were trying to go with a New Hope format where there wasn't really any big names. Forrest Whitaker was the biggest name on this film.
Felicity Jones was pretty popular. She was kind of well known at that time.
I don't know what else she's been in.
She's been in a lot of stuff. Did you see
anyone without looking at IMDb?
Well, I can. The Theory of Everything, which I guarantee you probably haven't seen.
But that was well after this movie, though.
It was well.
I'm not saying though that she was a big name, though. Maybe she had been in some
huge.
stuff.
No, she's not like huge.
But I'm just saying, big name. The only big name here is Forrest Whitaker.
Oh well, that's true too. Yeah.
Unless you were a voice actor, and then you were a bigger name. But
yeah, Alan Tudyk was in Dodgeball.
Yeah, but he wasn't a big name yet. He wasn't a household name.
He was Pirate Steve.
And then he's also in the Resident Alien TV show now.
Right, which is pretty funny. Actually, like Theory of Everything did come before this movie, and so did Inferno, where she played alongside Tom Hanks in one of the Dan Brown books.
I was surprised to know that she was in her mid-30s when she made this film, when I thought she was at least in her early 20s, but nope. She's much older.
Yeah, she has not aged, that's for sure.
That's all I have for my tidbits. So, Eric, you can lead us to the synopsis, plot, whatever we want to call this right now.
All right. Rogue One, a Star Wars story set in the Star Wars universe, unfolds as a standalone prequel to Episode 4, A New Hope. The film provides a riveting account of a group of unlikely heroes who band together for a daring mission to steal the plans for the Emperor's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, a super weapon capable of annihilating planets. The narrative begins with Galen Erso, a brilliant scientist coerced by the Galactic Empire to help design the Death Star. His daughter Jen Erso grows up estranged from him after being rescued by Saw Gerrera, a militant rebel who raises her under a shadow of distrust. As an adult, Jin is indifferent to the rebellion, having been shaped by years of survival and abandonment. The Rebel Alliance intercepts information suggesting Galen secretly embedded a weakness in the Death Star's design. Jen is reluctantly drawn into the rebellion when she learns of her father's role and his encrypted message revealing the flaw. The message also sets the stage for the rebels to act decisively against the Empire. Jen, along with a motley crew of rebels, including Captain Cassian Andor, K2SO, who is a reprogrammed Imperial droid, Bodhi Rook, a defected Empire pilot, Chirrut Imwe, a blind monk with unshakable faith in the Force, and Baze Malbus, a hardened warrior, sets out to retrieve the plans. Their journey takes them from the desolate landscape of Jeddah to the heavily fortified Imperial archives of Scarif. The film crescendos with a battle on Scarif. The rebel team executes a bold infiltration into the Empire's high-security facility, facing relentless opposition. Sacrifices are made as each team member contributes to the mission's success, underscoring the film's themes of heroism, unity, and hope. Rogue One ends with the plans successfully transmitted to the Rebel Alliance at great cost. The transmission directly leads into Princess Leia's possession of the plans, marking the beginning of Episode 4, A New Hope.
Thank you, AI.
Yeah, very well put. Well, we'll start the discussion here of Rogue One, kind of exploring some of the themes, the characters, and the impact it has on us with this movie. So, what were your overall impressions of Rogue One, Ken?
Actually was very impressed with this movie when it came out. I wasn't optimistic about this, especially after the prequels. I liked The Force Awakens, but I was a little hesitant about anything that's a prequel. Always worries me, and I think they do a good job here of transitioning between the two movies, Revenge of the Sith and New Hope. It's not like a middle movie because it really is happening like just before A New Hope. So it's kind of more of an extension of A New Hope than it actually is a bridge between the two movies, episodes 3 and 4. The only thing that I didn't like about this movie was the AI generated characters. Princess Leia especially looked horrible, bad, and Peter Cushing's image as well.
They probably could have, if it was done, you're right, it was clearly AI generated. But, for the year, it didn't look terrible. But, yeah, you look on it now, you're like, ugh.
One of the two is done better than the other.
Well, the Princess Leia is done terribly. That's the worst one out of the two, by far. But I would think that they would have done better if they would have just done a mirrored image of Peter Cushing's character just talking at like a glass, and you see the reflection. That would have been better than this crap. I always say that I don't like the fact that Lucas has gone back and redone his films. This is the one exception where I wish they would go back and redo these two AI.
You know what? I'm surprised they haven't. AI in the last year or two is just on fire. I would not be surprised in the next couple of years if they actually did. Director's cut.
And touch it up.
Yeah, I would not be surprised.
It would be an interesting choice, and I am kind of surprised too how that technology has advanced, especially because they done it in more recent Star Wars stuff, especially with Mark Hamill in the Mandalorian series.
Right, that's done really well.
Yeah, it's done extremely well.
And I know this is in its infancy. It's not. We've seen this before. I think John Wayne was like AI'd in some commercials earlier on. I know Ted doesn't like to hear that, but that's when I first heard about using people that have already died
for AI regeneration. Let's get that piece of garbage out there.
John Wayne isn't dead. He's frozen, and one day we're going to thaw him out, and he's going to be pissed.
So. All right, Dennis Leary.
But overall, I think it's a great standalone Star Wars film. It does a great job of the feel of the original New Hope. And like I said, this is an extension of A New Hope, and it feels that way. It feels like it's almost made around the same time frame. There's a lot of scenes that feel, and that's because of the old footage that they used and the practical effects that they used. They tried very hard to say, hey, if they didn't use it in the mid 1970s, we're not going to use it here. And I think it really shows.
Yeah, very much so.
What are your thoughts, Ted?
I'll be perfectly honest. This is what I wanted the prequels to be.
You and everyone else, Ted.
When I was a kid, and I played with the toys that I had, this is the sort of stuff that I would recreate. This is what I wanted the prequels to be. Lucas actually wrote Gareth Edwards a thank you note and saying how much he liked this movie. No, it's amazing. I agree a little bit with what Ken said about the CGI. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. If there was one thing that I would have changed, and I know that's probably a question you have later on, would have been Princess Leia never turn around.
Use the illusion of the voice just to see it back. Yeah.
Or do it from a distance, like she's far away, not a close up of her face. I mean, that's the problem. Is it's right there, right at you.
Right. I think that's where it loses a lot of its effect is the close ups. But as far as the story is as close to perfect as it could possibly be. I mean, and Gareth Edwards went out of his way too to make this a war movie. If you really want to connect the dots, there's elements of Full Metal Jacket in this movie, and there's elements of Platoon in this movie. Some of those battle sequences. And I know we'll talk about the cinematography, but my God, some of the cinematography in this movie is just absolutely stunning. It's breathtaking how amazing it is.
Makes you wonder why it wasn't in the prequels, right? Since he was a big, guy with the special effects back in the prequel days. But I mean, this is incredibly shot. And
so what I heard about the guy that had the story for this is that he had presented this idea to Lucas previously, and they chose not to use it in a comic book form. Then when Disney bought it, he then presented it to the evil Empress, Kathleen Kennedy. She greenlit it. And
one of her finest moves, though. We got to give her credit.
This is her best move. Outside of The Mandalorian and that whole series of shows, this is her best move by far. And with the exception of The Force Awakens too. Everything else she has screwed up because the rewrites and everything for this did not come from Kathleen Kennedy. The rewrites and stuff came from after they found this footage in his building. They found footage of the old fighter, the old Death Star attack. And so they're like, well, why can't we use that? And so they ended up rewriting a lot of that stuff to fit it in.
Well, it wasn't just that. It was that the whole third act was too long and disjointed, and they needed to find ways to. I mean, this is heavily edited. This last third of the movie,
and there's a lot of there was rewrites, but the rewrites here actually worked.
You actually have 7 screenwriters on this movie.
Yeah, I had heard that. There's some, but I didn't choose to name them all because there's no real.
Well, there's only 2 really that are kind of. Yeah. Everybody else is kind of like uncredited. But I think it does a great job of connecting the saga together. In fact, it might just do it better than any other movie in the series. If you look at the 3 previous movies, they don't connect as well to A New Hope than this movie does by far. Right. I mean, I don't even like it being called a Star Wars story because it's so much of an extension, like I said, of A New Hope. A Star Wars story for me is just like something that has nothing to do with anything that's going on in the actual scope of the whole picture, right? Yeah. It's kind of like you have the Fast and Furious movies, and then you had Hobbs and Shaw. And they were totally separate from, but they were called a Fast and Furious, story.
Right.
It happens in the same universe, but it's not part of the whole story.
But to be perfectly honest, nobody really refers to it as a Star Wars story. The only reason I did is because that's the official title.
Right.
But nobody refers to it as anything but Rogue One.
Well, marketing-wise, if you think about it, when they do like, for instance, when you got your 4K collection of the Star Wars Skywalker, saga,
it wasn't included.
not in there.
No, it's
Not
not
included.
included. It's not part of the Skywalker saga.
Right. Which I understand there's no Skywalkers in
technically,
here,
I guess
but
it could be, but but no, it's standalone.
I mean, you got a
I still
Skywalker
have-
in there. You got Princess Leia in there, even though she's computer generated.
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
Technically, it's not marketed as a Star Wars.
No, this is
movie.
this is a standalone movie, and this is what we were promised. I'll keep it 100. When they debuted and said, and the mouse came out and said that we bought Star Wars. This is what the heads promised us. They promised us 3 new trilogy movies and then a whole host of standalone movies. And they've not delivered on that promise at all. And that is solely on Kathleen Kennedy.
You
She's
really don't
canceled-
like Kathleen Kennedy.
she's
Just
canceled-
say, man, his
can't-
hatred is
You talk about
so
it more
deep.
than the movie.
I know.
She has canceled more Star Wars movies, and for stupid reasons. But this is not what we were promised. We were promised this. We were promised that this is one of the first things that we were promised was Rogue One.
And it was delivered, I think.
And it
The
delivered.
problem was,
And
is-
so the expectations were set really high because
That's
we
the
had
problem.
The Force Awakens, and then this came out. And I think that's what kind of led to the backlash of The Last Jedi, and then the disaster that was Solo, and the disaster not disaster, but the complete mess of a movie that The Last Jedi, the Rise of Skywalker was.
I think part of the problem was oversaturating the Star Wars market, releasing too much too soon.
Well, that's what
why
happened.
Solo's not a bad movie by any means.
Solo's
It's
an
just,
awesome movie, but here
It's-
again, when we'll talk about Solo probably next year, she screwed that movie up too, because the movie was almost done completely filming, and then she got into a personal argument with the director, and it was not over the movie; it was personal. It was ignorant. Here's part of the problem with Kathleen Kennedy: she was too close. She should have never have been named the head of Lucasfilms. She's too close to George Lucas and too close to Steven Spielberg. Because one of her first producer roles was Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was all personal to her. And
yeah, but I would argue, though, that the prequels with George Lucas in charge weren't much better if they were better.
No.
And I would argue that they're not better.
no, this is Rogue One's better than all of them.
Yeah.
Solo is better than all of them.
So throwing Kathleen Kennedy under the bus for all these problems, might as well throw George Lucas under the bus for the same thing. I'm not going to, make her the scapegoat for all the things that are wrong with Star Wars after the original trilogy, right? So, but we'll move on because I think it's important that we don't focus on her.
Oh, yeah, no.
So Eric, what about you? What are your thoughts about the overall impressions of Rogue One and how it connects with the larger Star Wars saga?
So my impressions are going to be different than Ted's, and they're potentially going to be different from you. Because I look at the Star Wars saga, I look at the Star Wars trilogy differently. I'm not obsessed with it like you are, Ted, and you are obsessed with it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not. And there's nothing wrong with that. I look at it more as entertainment. I don't get pissed off at this Kathleen Kennedy person. Granted, I did want to see George Lucas hang himself, but after he sold his child to Disney, but that's here nor there. No, it's kind of funny. He built up this whole Star Wars universe and Lucasfilms Limited and everything, and then, the mouse comes along and goes, "Hey, old man, why don't I give you $1 trillion and you sell me your children?" And he's like, "Okay." I don't know. I lose a little respect for George Lucas for doing that, but it's probably a good thing he did because I think his movie techniques are done. He's washed up.
Just look at the Indiana Jones movies afterwards.
Oh my goodness!
Dear
Don't.
Lord in heaven.
If he doesn't do it, though, there is no more Star Wars. Let's be honest.
True.
What, sell it?
We don't. If he doesn't sell, we don't get any more Star Wars.
So be it. It happens.
I'd rather have more
And
Star
bad
Wars.
Star Wars is better than no Star Wars, in my opinion.
That's my opinion too.
Well, I think at some point I think if I would hope the special effects get better as he's making the newer movies, but I think the nerd universe would probably start to turn on him if he started just doling out crap movies over and over and over again. So in this case, Disney has really stepped the game up, and I think they've made some quality films. I know you guys are not crazy about Rise of Skywalker or
I liked it.
I think the quality is superior. It's great.
You're right.
This movie though, I think this movie stands alone beautifully on its own. If you did not tie this to A New Hope and you just watched this on its face value as a standalone movie, knew nothing about A New Hope at the end, didn't make the connection at all, I think it's a very well made movie. Now the connection to A New Hope, I think, is done incredibly well, and you guys have gone over all the reasons why it has, and I can't argue with you. I think it's a very well made movie. I think it far met my expectations, because I remember when this came out, they're like, Star Wars. What do you call it? Not a Star Wars story, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
So you're thinking to yourself, okay, it's not going to be anything related to Star Wars. It's going to have completely different characters, completely different themes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you see the trailer, and you're like, okay, all right, this is looking interesting. It really does a good job. So, but let's move on to the next question here. So Jen Erso is a central figure in Rogue One. Dare I say the lead figure, right? How does her
dare?
That's right.
How dare you?
Dare, yes. How does her journey evolve throughout this film? And it does evolve from being a child to being a martyr, if you will. Ted, why don't you kick it off? Let us know.
I think she's one of the most compelling Star Wars characters ever written.
Did George Lucas have anything to do with her character?
No.
Nothing at all.
Nope.
Nothing
whatsoever.
Okay,
Not
interesting.
whatsoever. Her character arc and everything that goes into her is almost perfect. I wouldn't change her story in any way. Her character development from beginning to end is remarkable, because I think the reason is because it's human. And this is going to be something I might bring up later. The rebellion has a lot of similarities to the French underground, and she represents the French, or the resistance, that represents the French people that weren't necessarily on board with the resistance and just kind of went along and were doing their own thing. But then circumstances bring them along where they have to step up, make their voices known.
That is a really good parallel. I never really thought of it that way, but that is an incredibly thought out parallel about this. You hit the nail on the head.
For me personally, having studied history like I did, it's hard for me not to make the parallel between the Empire and the Nazis, because Lucas kind of did that all on his own, and then it was reinforced over time.
And then you got Disney. Just
their
like the Nazis,
movies,
right?
Well, no, Disney's not Nazis.
But wasn't Walt Disney a Nazi sympathizer?
He was not a good guy.
The Disney Vaults.
Walt was not Henry Ford. Okay, Henry Ford was a Nazi, and Charles Lindbergh was a Nazi. But that's neither here nor
And
there.
Big Bird was a Nazi.
No, he wasn't. But anyway, it's hard for me not to make that correlation with the rebellion and fighting against this power that seems unstoppable. Because let's be honest, that's what the Nazis were. They were unstoppable. And
well, they thought they were, but yes, you're absolutely right.
But you had these groups of people I mean, the most famous, of course, is the French, but there was the Dutch underground, and so I love her character arc. I think her character arc is very human.
It's definitely human. So, what I like about this is we get to see different aspects, of course, of her being a little kid and loving her father, showing that the relationship between the mother and the father and how much they cared for her. And then she goes on and she's, taken care of by Saul. But she's also abandoned by him too.
Right.
And so this has created her character into this somebody that doesn't trust people. She's been abandoned by her parents, by, foster parent here. And then now she is just trying to survive, kind of like a scavenger, like Ray a little bit.
Kind of like Ray, yeah.
And throughout this time frame, though, she doesn't trust anybody until she sees the hologram of her dad and what her dad has done. And then all of a sudden, it's about her dad's, desire, his dream. And she jumps on this. It's just to save her dad, but when her dad dies, she feels obligated to, his legacy, to destroy what he didn't want to create in the first place. And I think her struggle throughout the whole film is really well developed. And I think that's the writing, that's the acting, but it also is the characters around her that everybody sets around her. I mean, you have all these different characters. About like Cassian, for instance, she's like the first person that we see that lets her have the blaster. And, you have your wonderful robot that basically, doesn't trust her with a blaster. And I love, he's pretty funny. She gains a little trust, every little bit of way, somebody trusts her just a little bit more, to the point where then she has to trust them too. By them giving her that ability, or them trusting her, they've given her the ability to trust them as well. And by the end of the movie, they're all in it together. It's just really well done. And the pace of it is well done. It's not instantaneous.
Right.
That's what I like about
it's
this.
Earned.
It's earned. Exactly. There has to be a lot of things that happen. Her seeing that hologram is the change of the movie. When she sees it, you see the tears in her eyes, you see everything crumbling around her, and all she wants to do is see her dad again. And that's changed her back to this like little girl. She's this fighter. She's this one that doesn't, she even, I think in a cut scene, she says, "I'm a rebel. I rebel," type of deal, right?
Yeah, that was another famous thing. I think it was cut from the movie.
That was cut from it. So, but that's the kind of character she is. She's one who rebels. But once she sees that hologram of her dad, she reverts back to this little girl. And she's stripped away from all that facade, all that, thing that she puts in front of her to kind of disguise her emotions. And I think it's just really well done how they do that. How about you, Eric? What do you think of her?
Wow, I got to follow that. Okay. Well, you summed it up so well, Ken. I don't know what more I can say. I did feel that moment when she did see her father's hologram, and you could definitely see the change in her, the tone, the actions, everything. Her one desire now was to fulfill her father's wish of destroying the Death Star.
And that's a testament to Felicity Jones. That's another big boy actor doing big boy actor things.
She's a great actress, absolutely.
Yeah. She's been nominated twice for Academy Awards, you can tell.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, definitely. Never won, though, right? Never won.
No, she didn't win this year for The Brutalist, and she didn't win for The Theory of Everything either. Just as a side note, kudos to Forrest Whitaker for bringing Saw Gerrera to life. He did the voice of Saw Gerrera during the Clone Wars cartoon series, but he brought him to life. And the whole idea of Saw Gerrera is like his whole get-up, where he has to breathe the mask and everything, was a precursor to the science that went into creating the bodysuit for Darth Vader. And that was his whole backstory. But kudos to him for bringing that character from a cartoon to real life. That's pretty impressive. But Forrest Whitaker's amazing.
Okay.
I think the hair is what impresses me the most.
The hair is what's
The hair,
impressive.
yeah.
It's there's just the way that he portrays him. I think he does a really good job.
I wish we would have had a little bit more, because we
Of
go
him?
from him being the resistant like leader, and then he becomes like this own separate faction of the resistance.
He becomes like a. I resist using the word cult leader, but he becomes a radical. So there's the rebellion, and then there's him, and he is a radical.
Yeah, and they both don't see eye to eye, and so they're kind of at war with each other to a certain extent. They try to stay out of each other's business, I think, is the best way I could probably put it.
It seems that they're playing, that the Rebel Alliance tries to play politics with him, his existence.
But his insecurity, the fact that even thinks that Jen is there to kill him. But I would love to have seen a nice build up to that. Like to seeing, his character. I mean, maybe we'll see, I don't know if we'll see that in Andor. I haven't watched the full 2 seasons. I'm like a season and 4 episodes in. I don't think we'll see.
I don't think he'll make an appearance in Andor, but
I think he does. I believe he does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe he's in it. So, but I would have loved to have seen what things had happened to him. Like, did the Resistance use him as a pawn or something?
I think that's one of the key elements from the Clone Wars series. That's what happens. Okay. I think that's how he ends up in the physical condition that he ends up in. But no, I just wanted to toss it in. I didn't want us to go without giving some kudos to him, and also kudos to Mads Mikkelsen. I don't think I've ever seen him in a role that I didn't like him in. Of course, he's amazing as the bad guy in Casino Royale.
I don't usually buy him as a good guy in anything, because he's usually a bad guy.
It was so hard to buy him as a good guy.
And I don't know if I fully ever did. And I think that's probably a good thing for this movie, because in a sense, you had the Resistance that didn't know what to think of him, right?
Right.
And maybe that's the one thing that this movie could have done a little bit better, is maybe hid his agenda and then and find out at the end, kind of like Snape in the Harry Potter series, right?
Oh, yeah. I get what you're doing there. Okay.
Yeah, where you don't know what side he's on. And then you find out at the end, or you could at least find out in the middle that he is this.
Yeah. Because, I mean, they established it.
Spoiler alert for people who have never seen Harry Potter movies.
So, yeah, they establish it right off the bat that he's a good guy. It's like they almost said, okay, we know that this guy plays bad guys all the time. He's a good guy here. Come on, get on board. I do like what you said, though, there, Ken. I think that a more ambiguous character like that, where he's confused both sides, I think that would have worked, too. Especially with an actor like Mads Mikkelsen, I think he could have pulled that off.
The one thing I would have liked to seen is more of his actual building of the Death Star.
Yeah, I know.
With Legos.
Yeah, with Legos, right.
Of course, with Legos.
Styrofoam,
Everything's better with Legos.
Right. I would have liked to seen a little bit more of how it was constructed from, plans to...
Although the scenes that we get of them constructing the Death Star are pretty epic.
Yeah, they are.
Pivoting over from Jen to Cassian.
That's our next question, I think.
That's why I'm pivoting.
Yeah. I see what
I think it's great for his character to have kind of a similar progression, though we don't get to see him as a younger version of himself, which we'll get that in the Andor series.
Yeah.
And even though those Andor, I watched a season and a half of it, and it's slow as molasses, it does have some good stuff in it. And critics seem to like it. First, we get to see him kill somebody that's on his side, because he can't climb. He has to do things that he doesn't want to do, and you can see after he kills them and that his face, it's one of those had to do it type of looks. And throughout the movie, you wonder how that's going to play out, because he's asked to kill Jen's father, and he's conflicted on that. He's got orders to kill him, but he thinks twice about it, because he's earned, Jen's trust, and he's trusted, Jen as well. And I think by the time you got to that point, he's kind of changed. Again, that's another one of those where it's like, it's not instantaneous. His build changes. I do like it when the blind monk, because I'm terrible with names, the blind monk is saying, he's not a killer. He couldn't hear him be a killer.
Right.
But he was. So right there we see that opportunity for change from another.
Chirrut asks Baze, does he have the eyes of a killer?
Because he doesn't think he is a killer.
I like Cassian. Cassian is a good character as well. Another very, very well written character. I mean, his arc is not nearly as pronounced as Jin's is, except for the fact that he finally realizes that, if something's actually going to get done in the rebellion, because as with any sort of bureaucracy, the alliance has come down to bureaucracy. And we see it firsthand, where it's just infighting. And he finally realizes that to get things done and the sacrifices morally that he's had to make, he's going to have to step up with somebody like Jin. And he's going to have to make a stand.
Because I think he's tired.
Very much so. And I mean, that scene at the end of towards the end of the movie, where they're getting ready to leave Yavin 4, and all of those guys come up, and that's that little speech that he makes, where we've all sacrificed something for this cause, and this is the only way we're going to be able to move forward. It's a very powerful speech. I think it is pretty amazing. I think it's probably one of the seminal moments of the movie.
I think it really shows how deep his character got.
Yeah.
I love what you just pointed out, because I think that speech in itself, it's almost kind of like confession to a certain extent.
That's exactly how I thought about it too.
Yeah. This is like, I need to do this in order to be forgiven of what I've done to get here.
Right. This is going to wipe away my sins. This is going to make me make up for my loss of morality.
This is going to validate the things that I've done up to this point. Because up to this point, he's not sure, especially when he's getting two different orders from two different leaders. Don't care what they said there in the meeting. You're gonna, if you see this guy, you're gonna kill him.
Yeah, that harkens back to another, and I believe it is a type of a war movie where they ask the character to continually do morally ambiguous things, and the toll that it takes on them, and they finally snap. And that's kind of what happened with Cassian. He's been asked to morally subjugate himself and given two different orders. He knows that he has to do something to be able to redeem himself. It's a great redemption story. His redemption story is really good.
How about you, Eric? What's your thoughts on Cassian?
Again, man, you guys have hit it on the head. I mean, it really is kind of like a confessional, a man who's done things he's not proud of on orders, and he's hit that wall, and now he wants to do good. He wants to be that person that is for the rebellion. I do like that scene where he says we've all sacrificed something. There's a lot of turning points in this movie where you can kind of see how it pivots from from scene to scene to scene. It does a really good job of pivoting its way through the movie while still making a great connection. There are movies you watch where they try and, connect scenes and pivot, and it is so disembogulated. I mean, it's like all over the place. This movie's flow is very well done.
They don't need a pivot because they have already kind of slowly changed that character, so they don't have to all of a sudden do a complete 90-degree angle or 45 degree.
You see the character's evolution.
Right.
You see him changing. You see him growing. You get more attached to the character the more you watch the movie.
And even with a minor character like Bodhi Rook, his sacrifice at the end, you feel it. I mean, ultimately, Jin and Cassian's fate at the end is earned. It's almost like that they can both rest at peace now, knowing that they've done what they've needed to do. I think every character here, they earn their sacrifice. And of course, we know what it all leads to. Their sacrifice means something. And it's more than just that line in the scroll from A New Hope, where it says that the rebels have achieved their first victory. This is the sacrifice that had to go into that first victory. If you look at the great things that have happened in history, most of them come with sacrifice. Something was sacrificed.
Well, all great things in history come with sacrifice.
I think with this movie, each character is a redemption story. It seems like, Brody's he's a Imperial cargo pilot.
Yeah.
So he's defecting because he needs to prove to others, that he's.
And he believes in Galen. He believes in Galen. He's one of the few that believes in Galen.
Who knows what cargo he shipped out that caused maybe other deaths? I mean, you look at the robot even. I mean, yeah. You look at K2SO, he's an ex-Imperial droid.
Right.
So he has almost a redemption story because he's reprogrammed. He's our humor. He's our tension breaker. What I like about this movie is all these characters really don't have much humor. The humor comes directly from K2SO's
deadpan humor.
Yeah, deadpan humor. Yeah, especially when it comes to Jen. And then when Jen shoots the other android, and he's like, "Did you know that wasn't me?" Yeah. So, you stay back, and then he shows up, and he's like, "Well, I thought you could use some help, but he's like, but maybe I should leave." He's just very condescending. There's so many layers. He's probably the best, of all the robots. I know you have a heart for C-3PO and you think you should be knighted.
I know.
But this is probably
C-3PO for most of the movies is pretty annoying, but
C-3PO?
C-3PO, yeah.
C-3PO.
But this robot this is what makes the movie enjoyable because it is so dark and because there's so much death in this movie. When he dies, that's when it really hits, I think. It's amazing how it's not the human characters, it's the robot when he takes it at the end and shuts down that you're just like, oh, they're not any of them are going to make it now. When they took out the robot, you knew that they were all not going to make it.
It's so stupid because I'll tell you, when I first saw this movie, it got me. And it suckered me in. And I'm like, they're going to make it out of here. They're not going to let these characters die. You're exactly right, Ken.
I happen to do that once in a while.
His death brought everything to reality. That Cassian and Jin are not going to make it out of this. And none of them are going to make it out of this.
Yeah, they made the ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kill off comic relief, the most likable character. I mean, he is the most likable character in the whole movie. And when you kill him off, it makes you doubt everybody else's outcome.
And I'll tell you, what got me, it still chokes me up every time, is when he finally comes around and he looks at Jin and he says, what does he say? You're
kind of like you're unpredictable or
right. Your actions are consistently unpredictable. And it's so odd because you would never think that from a droid. But you get that he's telling her that he accepts her and that he likes her and that they like each other.
Again, they earn each other's trust. At the end of the day, they bonded. This whole group is bonded together due to trusting each other. none of them could have had to trust any of them. The one thing that we see here is we have such a big, wide diversity of characters here.
Mhm.
They do a great job of not making everybody the same. Everybody
Right.
has a different path, and I think that's why you're able to enjoy these characters, because like A New Hope, Princess Leia, Han Solo, and Luke, they're all three different type of characters.
Right.
They have all three different backgrounds, and I think that's what I like about these characters. And then you bring them all together as one cohesive group. Usually I like a group to stay together throughout the whole film and be together at the end, but I think this works perfectly, where the characters, how they came into this movie, kind of like together, and
Yeah.
with the people that they were with.
I think too that the connection between Baze, Malbus, and Chirrut Imwe, those two guys did an amazing job too, with their characters. Because you feel that at the end too. At least I did. He sacrifices himself, and it did. You see that Baze goes off, and it breaks him. That's his best friend. There's something to that. Those guys did an amazing job. Very well done, written and executed by the actors. Why I like Donnie Yen a little bit better than the Jet Li, because I don't know if Jet Li could have pulled it off.
I don't know. I've seen Jet Li in a movie that's the title of it is eluding me, where I think he could have pulled it off. But each of these characters brings a strength and a vulnerability that allows us to be invested in each one of them. You have a blind monk who isn't a Jedi, but somehow kicks more ass than most Jedi do, and that's because he, like you said earlier, he trusts the Force. He's also kind of wise, like a Jedi is, but he also has a little humor, like when they put over the bag over his head, and he's like, "Are you kidding me? I'm blind." So
and I guess he improvised that too.
Improvised that line.
He's like,
exactly.
really, I'm blind.
I'm blind. Yeah,
right.
That's great. That's a great moment.
What about you, Eric? Any final thoughts on these particular characters?
Again, you guys have really just put this whole thing together. The three main characters are all so diverse. They come from different backgrounds. You're putting them all together, just like in A New Hope. So it's really a great segue going into A New Hope, because now you have a new set of completely different characters coming together to finalize and complete the rebellion's plans, if you will.
What's interesting about all these characters are, you could have took the blind monk or Cassian or Jen, or even the robot. You could have made another movie with them.
Easily. But
you decided to kill them off, and I think that. And if you haven't watched the movie and you're listening to this just for
you all died
shits and giggles or whatever, this is different than any other Star Wars movie. Like if we look at Revenge of the Sith, it doesn't have a happy ending with Luke's mom dying and Darth, and of course Anakin becoming Darth and stuff like that. But you already knew where the characters were going after that.
Sure,
you knew about Luke and Leia, and Obi-Wan and Darth and all that. So there was a sense of it's a little bit of a downer, but we'll see some of these characters moving forward.
You already know how it evolves in those movies.
Yeah,
this one is
not in this movie. This movie, even though we know what happens next, but when it comes to these characters, they're one and dones. Even though Cassian gets a TV series, but still, and that's even harder to watch because you know the fate of Cassian. So,
right.
I mean, at least for me, it is.
But what I want us to do, you become attached to him.
Yes.
So, what did you guys think of the visual effects and the cinematography in this movie?
We talked about this when we did the sequel trilogy, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. They're shot brilliantly. There's no difference here. But there are certain scenes in this movie that take everything to the next level. The scene of the Star Destroyer coming out of the shadow of the Death Star Because every time we've ever seen the Death Star, it's always been from a distance. You never really understood the scope and of the actual size of the Death Star until you see it completely dwarf one of these Star Destroyers that we know are huge. I think that's just an amazing scene, and just completely awesome.
For me, it's the Jeddah, the planet Jeddah.
Yeah.
When they go to Jeddah and they destroy the city,
Right.
how that is shot and how everything is done and everything's crumbling down and statues and.
I would have liked to have known more about Jeddah.
Yeah, at one particular time, I guess there was a Jedi temple.
Jedi temple there, yeah, because that's the statues that are fallen over,
right?
Are of Jedi.
I love the fact that they do bring those characters from the canteen,
Dr.
Evazan
and Ponda Baba, yeah.
Yeah, and they both start quoting lines from A New Hope,
Right.
which
Right.
that's a nice little touch, I have to admit. And
we get to see
the
an Imperial
little Easter eggs
droid.
that we, and I think that's the key here is these little Easter eggs that we get here pointing towards A New Hope, or even pointing towards the past. I think they're nicely put in here and there. They're not overly done. They're not trying too hard to, like, for instance, The Force Awakens tries too hard
Yes.
sometimes to remind you it's a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, because you see in the background, you see the Imperial probe droid.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Dr. Evazan. I think that was a cool little addition. But yeah, I love Jeddah, too.
Even if it's on the ship when they're watching it below and they're saying, "Oh, look how beautiful that is," where the destruction is just spreading out. To a certain extent, that was awesome looking to see it in that type of way, right? So yeah, there's just a lot of things that are shot really well. When they go over to try to save Galen, I think that is really well shot, and that's very, almost to a certain extent, kind of unique looking compared to other things we've seen.
Oh, I like that planet
Star
too.
Wars.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's a different type of looking planet.
Scarif's really cool too, and we get to see a
Scarif
new.
looks like it's Hawaii. Like, did they land on Hawaii or something?
It's the Maldives.
Eric, you've been to Hawaii. Does it look like Hawaii?
It actually does look like Hawaii now that you point that out. Yes,
I think they shot it in the Maldives,
which is very, very yes. It looks a lot like Hawaii.
Yeah, but yeah, it's really cool, and we get to see a new stormtrooper, the Sand Trooper. We get to see two new stormtroopers. We get to see the Sand Troopers on Scarif, but then we get to see the Death Troopers, the Officer Krennic's henchmen, which they're pretty awesome.
We didn't talk much about Krennic, and he's very obsessed with power, right?
Ben Mendelsohn's awesome.
He does a really good job of. He's not like I almost want to say he's a weasel, but he's not a weasel. He just wants something and he gets it.
He wants to be part of that inner circle, part of the Emperor's inner circle. He wants to be at that table in A New Hope, where Grand Moff Tarkin and Vader come into that table and say that they eliminated the Senate, or that the Emperor has eliminated the Senate. He wants to be at that table.
And I think he's about ready to be at that table because Vader basically lets him stay in charge. And if Vader gives you his trust, then you have earned the Emperor's trust. Because he has that little look on his face after being choked by Vader. Of course, don't choke on your aspirations. Yeah,
let's not go into that.
Let's not go into that line.
It's very controversial.
Yeah, but the look on his face is one of I'm kind of in. At least that's what I get out of it.
I've made it. Yeah. I think Tarkin is threatened by Krennic's ambitions.
Yes, that's why he downplays pretty much everything that he does. He's also a character that kind of like it continues to have to try to prove himself to everyone, even himself, to a certain extent. He's a perfect villain. I really enjoy him. And in the Andor series, he still has that feel to him too.
He's still played by Ben Mendelsohn?
Mm-hmm. The only problem with that series is they all look 10, 15 years older. But I mean,
Right.
it is what it is. But I was going to say one of the things that I really like about how this is shot is especially the end here where they're taking old footage and new footage and they're blending them seamlessly
So
together.
Awesome.
I mean, you don't know what is 1970s footage and what is now recently been
Exactly.
shot.
Now that's good cinematography.
Yeah, they cleaned that up really well.
Extremely well. I mean, I was like, how did they get that actor to come back to play them? Well, maybe, they found the old footage, right?
Yeah, he's passed away. And we also, in that series, that sequence, we get to find out why Luke gets to be Red 5. Because Red 5 bites it.
One thing that they did here was originally the ships were supposed to be blue.
Oh,
Not-
yeah, right.
not red.
Because there's the Blue Squadron, too, yeah.
Right, but they weren't able to make that work originally in the New Hope. So what they
Right.
do here which is really kind of cool here in Rogue One, is they bring those blue squadrons out, but they get annihilated.
Right.
So what's
But-
left is
but-
the red squadrons.
Right, but we also get to see that an X-Wing can take down an AT-AT, an AT-AT, which
Yeah.
is really freaking cool.
I was wondering why you didn't do that in Empire Strikes Back.
Why Luke got into his little speeder rather than his X-Wing? Yeah. Well,
I
let's
mean-
don't talk about that. But that's
It is what it is, but yeah,
But
the
it's
cinematography
cool.
here is incredible. Was there anything that jumped out at you, Eric? Any type of scene?
No, not really. I enjoyed the cinematography throughout the whole movie, but no, nothing really jumped out at me.
Yeah, and we talked about the CGI with Tarkin and Leia.
I mean,
so
it wasn't
we're not
that bad, but
We're not
Yeah,
going to hammer
yeah.
that home anymore. But I want to
It was
finish
bad.
this.
I'm sorry, it was bad.
Okay.
You guys could say it
So-
wasn't that bad. No, it's bad.
All right.
It's going to lower my hook rating just for that.
So, oh Jesus, come on. The one thing that is, I guess, probably the most controversial out of this entire movie is the sequence, including Darth Vader. If you had any love for Star Wars as a kid, and you played with the Star Wars figures, or you had this in your mind, you knew that Darth Vader was a badass. I personally love seeing Darth Vader. He becomes death. That's Darth Vader. Not the sniveling asshole screaming no at the end of Revenge of the Sith. That's Darth Vader. That's the man who holds up Captain Antilles in A New Hope and crushes his windpipe.
That's the guy who killed younglings.
And yeah, this is a badass. And the way they shot that, with him coming out of the darkness, it's completely awesome. So on Instagram, there's a really cool thing, and I don't know if I sent it to the two of you, where somebody superimposed For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica over that sequence, and it rocks. It's so cool. It's heavy metal. You see just how powerful Darth Vader really is.
It's really well used here. Yeah, like you said, when you see the lightsaber go on, you're like, "Oh, the shit's going to go down right now.
It's
You all going to die."
y'all gonna die. Yeah,
he said assemble a boarding party.
right.
I'm the boarding party.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was by himself. It wasn't like he brought anybody with
Right,
him.
right.
I got
I'm
this.
the boarding party. Hold on, everybody step back. I got this. He's awesome.
He's awesome,
And-
but I love how the fact that they just get away. Just
Exactly.
barely get
I
away.
love that too.
It's just a perfect sequence, and it just leads everything up into, unfortunately, the Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher
Yeah.
CGI yuckiness. But
There was 2 points here where I'm glad that they didn't go to a base instinct. because I have a feeling there was 2 points here at the end of the movie where the base instinct is to just let it go and end the movie there. The first one is, of course, and you here again, you can't stop looking at history. It's the mushroom cloud on Scarif. It could be a 1-for-1 identical replication of Oppenheimer's test of the atomic bomb. It's that moving. I'm sure there was an instinct to end the movie with that scene. Then the other place where they could have ended it is with Darth Vader looking out of the broken rebel ship as the Tantive 4 takes off with the plans. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they didn't end it there. I just wish Leia had not turned around.
Yeah.
Because everybody knew who Jimmy Smits was talking about when he said to Mon Mothma, I would trust her with my life. Who the hell do you think he's talking about?
Well, she should automatically know who he's talking about in the first place.
Exactly.
Anyway. You love the connection of the original New Hope of the ship at the beginning of the movie when Vader comes in and he chokes that one guy trying to find the plans.
Right.
Everything looks the way it should look.
Exactly.
It doesn't look futuristic like, George Lucas tried too hard to make it look too futuristic in the prequels.
And that's a credit to Gareth Edwards, because I guess Gareth Edwards, it was meticulous as to what he did to create an exact replica of what took place. It's down to every little detail. Kind of like what the director of Dr. Sleep did in recreating the Overlook Hotel at the end of Dr. Sleep, in reference to The Shining. Because that was another case where the director kind of went crazy recreating an environment.
I think it's something to say about, like you said, recreating the environment.
Yeah.
But not reusing stuff from the past. What I mean by that is, like, unfortunately, Force Awakens tries so hard and and tries to be like A New Hope.
Hi, this is Star Wars.
Right.
You remember the thing that Luke was playing with on the little ball droid? Here it is. It's still on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I mean, and some of that is fine, but I think what I like is just the feel of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the look of it, but not actually recreating A New Hope.
Right.
Like I said, this movie feels like an extension. Does it feel newer? Yeah, of course it does. I mean, you're never going to make something look exactly like 1976, 77 during that time frame. It's almost impossible, but he does a close enough job to it. The Vader part, it's kind of like the cherry on top of the whole movie. The whole movie works.
It is. Yeah.
It's dark. I love it being dark. This is what Revenge of the Sith darkness should have felt like.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
It came somewhat close, but it failed, especially with the No and then what's her name dying from broken heart. Those stupid things just ruined the how dark that movie was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But this movie gets it, and then Vader showing up is just the cherry on top of the whole thing. And I remember being in that movie theater, and when Darth Vader popped up, the whole room just went, whoa.
Yeah, it was a collective gasp.
And we've already saw him earlier in the earlier scene. So we knew he was, part of this movie.
That's the other thing. I love his castle. The castle sequence is so cool. And I'm glad we didn't see the Emperor. Didn't need it.
No, we didn't need to see an Emperor, not yet. I mean, first of all,
as much as I love Ian McDiarmid, he didn't.
I mean, we really didn't get to see him until Return of the Jedi. I mean, we saw a bit of him in Empire Strikes Back, but it was very little. Let's be honest. We want our bad guy to be Darth Vader. We don't really want it to be the Emperor.
There's a reason AFI named him the biggest villain of all time.
So I think the use of Darth Vader here is perfectly done. I mean, maybe not the joke, but this sequence right here at the end, and him just looking off as they get away. Yeah, that's really well done. So what do you guys think of Rogue One as a lasting impact on the Star Wars saga? Do we feel like over the years it's kind of been forgotten a little bit?
No.
See, I think it has been to a certain extent because of the fact it doesn't get included in the 4K big, released limited edition sets and stuff like that. You don't see anything really big coming out as celebrating this movie. Maybe it's because it's still relatively new.
It hasn't reached its 10-year anniversary yet.
Right. It just won't get the look. Of course, the original trilogy is going to always be, on top of the mountain. But I feel like this movie is right up there.
This is the extension. This is what everybody wanted. I'll say it again. When you're playing with your Star Wars toys as a kid, this is what you're doing. And that's what they recreated.
Or for you as an adult.
Well,
Rick Moranis' Spaceballs.
No, sir, I didn't see you playing with your dolls.
Yes.
Right, yes. I mean, we didn't want Jar Jar Binks. We don't want to see that garbage that Lucas put out. We didn't want to see Darth Vader become human. We knew that he came from somewhere. We didn't need to see him as a 9-year-old kid.
No, not necessarily.
We wanted to see Darth Vader, pardon my French, fuck shit up. And be the baddest motherfucker in the entire galaxy. This Darth Vader here is the one that is extending his hand to Luke, saying, we can rule the galaxy.
No, I understand what you're saying, but without the prequels, we probably would have never gotten this movie anyway. But I will say this. This movie, I think, set up the rest of the two movies of the Skywalker saga to fail. Because it set a better expectation.
I don't disagree with you at all.
Because it said, this is how a Star Wars film is supposed to be made. And they should have took notes. Rian Johnson should have took notes.
And J.J. Abrams.
And J.J. Abrams should have took notes and say, this is what the fans want. And unfortunately didn't. And I think when we didn't get it, there was backlash.
There were rumors after this movie was released that they were trying to get Gareth Edwards to come back and direct one of the Skywalker sequels. And he refused.
I think by that time, I feel like The Last Jedi was already...
It was almost done.
It was pretty much done, yeah. I mean, after that debacle, which I still don't think is a bad movie, it's disjointed from everything else from Star Wars. Then
The Last Jedi did nothing. The Rise of Skywalker did nothing to include it into the trilogy.
No, I think it was really hard, especially after Carrie Fisher died, and then the backlash that you got from The Last Jedi. I think it would have been hard for anybody to people were wanting perfection for the Rise of Skywalker.
Of course,
and
it was never going to happen.
But you know what? I'd rather have this movie, Rogue One, set up a higher expectation than not set up an expectation at all.
I agree.
So I'm happy that this movie did that.
What about you, Eric?
Wow. I don't know.
Good answer.
I know. I mean, you guys...
Went straight off the fence.
Well,
Eric.
you guys are I'm the Star Wars nerds here, okay? So I watched the movie, watched it twice. I'm listening to you guys talk about the movie, and it's kind of opening my mind up to other things I really never made connections to. You're kind of tying everything together in a nice little bow for me.
So I think we only have one question before we get into our ratings here on our personal reflections of the movie. If you could change one thing about Rogue One, what would it be? I'll start with Eric. Eric doesn't have to follow us.
Yeah, you go first this time, Eric.
Yeah, Eric. Besides CGI faces.
Well, okay,
don't influence the answerer.
That's an obvious one, but no. Again, I didn't think it was that bad, so I kind of overlooked it. I guess the one thing I would have changed is, and probably would have added a little bit more time to the movie, but I really wanted, the one thing that I wanted to see was more backstory. I'm taking Ken's words here. More backstory on the Death Star. I wanted to see how it was built, how the one little area in there was put to be the mass destruction switch. Just a little, another 5, 10, 15 minutes, a little backstory on there, I think would have tied it up more for me. But overall, there's really nothing I can think of that would have changed. I would have changed.
What about you, Ted?
As far as the story goes, nothing with the story. I think the only thing that I would have changed, like I said, would have been we don't see Leia's face. We just see her back because we know it's her. It's Princess Leia. She has her hair in the buns, and we could just hear her say those lines. She doesn't need to turn around. We don't need to see her face. Of the two, I have less problem with Grand Moff Tarkin. I can understand Ken's not caring for it. But as far as the story goes, I think the story is almost perfect. As close to perfect as you could almost get.
I think for me, and I already said it, it's Galen. I would rather us not know which side he was on till at least the middle of the film. Right when she sees at least the hologram, or when he's about ready to die. One of those 2 points, it would have been interesting. And I think then that would have made it harder for Cassian, even harder for him, because then he would think that he has to kill him because he believes that he's still a bad guy by the time he gets there. Right. So if there was one change, that would be the change. So I think it's time, though, for our final reviews and who we would recommend this movie to.
I will start us off. So, again, I look at this movie different from my other two counterparts here. As a standalone movie, I'll be honest with you, man. You guys have raised my hook rating on this. I really, really enjoyed listening to you guys talk about this movie, and really, really tied it together. Made me think about things that I really didn't even think about even watching the movie, or I might just watch it again just to think about some of the things you guys talked about. As a standalone movie, it's really good. If there was no Star Wars universe, if you knew nothing about any of the other Star Wars movies, this thing stands alone wonderfully. As a prequel to A New Hope, I think it is a testament to movie making in that effect that it really does set up A New Hope. This would be a great recommendation to someone who has never seen any of the Star Wars movies. Have them start off with Rogue One and then go into A New Hope. Fresh eyes. Hard to find someone, of course, but they're out there. That's who I would recommend this movie to. For me, this thing, I came into this thing, honestly, guys, probably thinking 3.75, maybe 4 hooks, but I'm going 4.25, 4.25. It's not a 5 movie for me. It had a few slow parts in it here and there. There were some parts of it that it didn't keep my attention, but overall, it really is a great movie. And listening to you guys talk about it, I appreciate it even more. How about you, Ted? 5 hooks. Next.
I probably gave my rating away in the last segment. This is a 5 for me. This is everything that I wanted. To me, this is the prequel. I know that there's 3 prequel movies, but they're so far below this and the original trilogy. It's barely the same. They're in the same universe. This movie is amazing. The cinematography is great. The acting is absolutely stellar in every sense of the word. The writing, even though that there was more than one writer, is coherent and to the point, and it flows perfectly. It's like it was all written by the same person. And that is shocking if you really think about how many writers there were had their fingers in this pie. kudos to Gareth Edwards by getting a letter directly from George Lucas saying thank you. That's high praise. Because say what you want about George Lucas, he ranks right up there with Robert Heinlein and the sci-fi writers of all time. He created an entire universe, and he thanked him. That's a testament. So this movie is definitely a 5 for me. Who would I recommend it to? Eric actually stole my thunder.
Yeah.
You stole exactly. I mean, if you want to introduce somebody to Star Wars for the first time, let's say take somebody who's a big Star Trek fan that's never really gotten into the Star Wars thing and said, okay, you want to know what the heart, that's what this movie encapsulates, is the heart of Star Wars. And I think that's the greatest theme of this movie. So yeah, that's who I would recommend it to.
Well, on my recommendation and my rating here, well, as far as my rating goes, it's 4.25 for the Hook rating. It's my third favorite Star Wars film, and it actually threatens Empire a little bit. Because for me, it's Star Wars, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and then it's Rogue One. And it's because Rogue One is almost perfect.
Secretly, though, the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi is your favorite.
Yeah, whatever.
Are you knocking it down 0.75 for the CG?
The CG does knock it down from 4.5 to 4.25. Yes.
Okay.
See, I don't get that, but okay.
For me, it's just an eyesore. Every time I look at it, it's hard to watch.
Kind of like the Ewoks.
Lay off.
I mean, to be honest, I actually prefer an Ewok over the CGI right here. So
what?
How about Jar Jar Binks?
Oh, Ken likes the Ewok.
I do not like the Ewoks.
Ken wants an Ewok.
Yeah, for dinner.
Sad.
The fact that Gareth Edwards has only directed a couple other films after this,
it's shocking.
It is shocking. Maybe he didn't like the process. Maybe he didn't enjoy himself. I don't know why, because this is the best directed movie since Empire Strikes Back, by far. Like I said, I may have wanted a little bit more of uncertainty when it came to Jen's father, but outside of that, there's not a misstep here, and it sets A New Hope up very well. Who I recommended for. Eric did steal the thunder from both of us, because I mean, I do think this is maybe the first film that you start with, or maybe you start Revenge with the Sith, but I don't know, with the no and the. But if I want like for you to experience a really good Star Wars film, this is the one to start with, and then go into the original trilogy, and actually after that, be done with it. I mean, you could check out the other movies if you like, but I think these 4 movies is all you really needed. I would recommend this movie to anybody that likes war movies, that likes, like you said, likes Platoon, likes those type of movies. This could stand alone as its own war movie. You don't have to watch all the Star Wars films. It's recommended that you do, but if you wanted just to watch this one, I would have no problem with that as well, because it is a great standalone movie.
Cool. Well, we all like it. Yay!
She likes it.
All right. Well, Ken, what are we doing next? We're jumping off the Star Wars bandwagon and jumping on to
the 50th anniversary of Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Ooh, that's right.
Me. It's just a little bunny. That's what they all say.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. All right. Well, that is all the time we have for this episode of Hooked on Movies podcast. And as always, take your hands off me, you damn dirty apes.
May the Force be with you, and see you at the movies.
See you next time on Hooked on Movies.